Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches. And today I'm going to be talking about the 1958 historical epic, The Vikings. And in this movie, the King of Northumbria is killed during a Viking raid, which is led by the fearsome King Ragnar Lodbrok. Because the king had died childless, the King of Northumbria, that is, had died childless, his cousin Ayla takes the throne. The king's widow, however, is pregnant with Ragnar's child. She was assaulted during the attack. So to protect the infant from her cousin-in-law's ambitions, she sends him off to Italy. However, a twist of fate intervenes, the ship is intercepted by the Vikings, and unaware of the child's kinship, he is, after all, the illegitimate child of their own king, they enslave him. The young boy grows into a man named Eric. Despite his status as a slave, he enjoys the protection of several powerful figures at the Viking court, which contributes to, but also allows him to survive, the bad blood between him and Ragnar's legitimate son, Einar. This rivalry is exacerbated when they both fall in love with the Welsh Christian princess Morgana, who is to marry King Ayla, but is captured in a Viking raid. When Ragnar is in turn captured and executed by King Ayla, his unwitting sons, the sons of King Ragnar, that is, will need to band together to gain vengeance. It's unlikely that this alliance of necessity will survive long, however. So this film is very loosely based on the real-life battles between King Ayla of Northumbria and the Viking chieftain Ragnar Lodbrok, which culminated in the invasion of England by the Great Heathen Army in 866. The Vikings was a fairly high-profile production at the time, with a heavyweight cast including Kirk Douglas, Tony Curtis, Janet Leigh, and Ernest Borgnine. They even got Orson Welles to do the narration. And that investment paid off. The film was a financial success for the production company, though it was actually Kirk Douglas who profited the most. He waived his upfront fee for a cut of the box office and ended up being paid almost as much as the entire production cost of the film. So the movie was a success, but is it any good? Well, if you had asked childhood me shortly after I first saw the movie, which probably was in like the very late 70s, I would have given you an enthusiastic yeah! Today, though, I would be rather more muted in my response, and there are three key reasons why. So, the Vikings ends with a major battle as the Norse warriors invade Northumbria and sack a castle. It's a pretty big, ambitious scene, but it suffers today from a major issue, which is the action choreography is very stiff and dated. And, that shouldn't be surprising, really. The Vikings turned 65 this year. It was made closer to the 19th century than it was to today. Closer also to the opening of the very first full-time movie theatre, the Vitascope Hall, which commenced operation in 1896. So in terms of the history of film, this is sort of closer to the start of film as a form of entertainment than to today. Now, arguably, cinema's action choreographers have had more time to hone their trade since this movie was made than they had before it. And unfortunately, that fact definitely shows with this movie. There's an awful lot of, I'm going to stand here awkwardly with my weapon raised until you turn around, and then I will attack you so you can see me coming and block my blade with yours. And for modern audiences who are used to the much more slick kind of choreography we see today, this is all going to look very stiff and unconvincing. Second, a major subplot of the film is Eric and Einar's rivalry over Morgana. And in theory, this should work well. Einar is played by the charismatic Kirk Douglas, while Eric and Morgana are played by the photogenic and capable Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh. That's a pretty fine trio to work with. And for that matter, Curtis and Leigh were married at the time, so they should have chemistry to burn. Unfortunately, the script does very little to flesh out Eric and Morgana beyond their being very bland goodies. They're both pretty underdeveloped, especially Morgana, given her quite late introduction to the film and her much more secondary role overall. And their relationship is laughably thin. It's pretty much like the filmmakers thought, oh, we've got an attractive real-life couple on screen together. All the heavy lifting's done, right? We just, the audience will just accept that they're destined to be together. We don't need to do any work. Well, no, you do need to do some work. It's pretty thin and unconvincing stuff. The final weakness is the film's antagonist, and specifically, who is it? At the start of the film, Aylar is the primary antagonist, but he's then absent for a decent chunk of the movie, and Ragnar and Einar fill in the adversarial role. Then it's just Einar. Then it's Alar again before Einar gets a last hurrah. Though ultimately the script, through Eric's actions, seems to suggest that maybe Einar wasn't so bad after all, despite all those times he tried to murder Eric. It's possible all the shifting of sympathies was intended to reflect the realities of the real-world history. I mean, their good and evil were very much a subjective matter of perspective, and all sides involved committed violent and cruel acts when they held the advantage over their enemies. And who those enemies were could and did change rapidly depending on circumstances. Unfortunately, if that kind of thing was the film's objective, if it was aiming for that kind of, this is a complex situation, it's not as simple as who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, the script simply lacks the dexterity and finesse to pull that off. So that's The Vikings. It's not a bad film, but it is also neither a particularly accurate account of the historical events nor an especially entertaining and memorable work of fiction. Kind of falls awkwardly in between those two and doesn't hit either target. Next time, the bugs are back as we take a look at both Starship Troopers 2, Hero of the Federation, and Starship Troopers 3, Marauder. But that's next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it.